Visceral fat, the dangerous fat that surrounds your organs, is one of the biggest health threats facing seniors. It's not about vanity, it's about survival. Visceral fat is linked to heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and multiple cancers. Today I'm sharing the fastest, most effective way to remove visceral fat specifically for people over 60, a strategy backed by research that works with your aging body, not against it. If you're serious about living longer and healthier, pay close attention. Welcome to Graceful Aging Guide. First, understand what makes visceral fat different. It's not the fat you can pinch on your arms or thighs. It's deep belly fat that wraps around your liver, pancreas, intestines, and heart. It releases inflammatory chemicals and hormones that damage your entire body. After 60, visceral fat becomes even more dangerous because your body's ability to regulate it decreases. Hormones like estrogen, in women, and testosterone, in men, decline, making visceral fat easier to gain and harder to lose. But there is a fastest way, and it's not what you think. Let's break down the exact strategy. 1. Intermittent fasting 16-8 method. The fastest way to remove visceral fat after 60 starts with intermittent fasting, specifically the 16-8 method. Here's how it works. You eat all your meals within an 8-hour window, like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and fast for 16 hours, including sleep. This is not starvation, it's strategic meal timing. Why does this specifically target visceral fat? When you fast for 12 to 16 hours, your body exhausts its glucose stores and starts burning fat for fuel. And visceral fat, because it's metabolically active, is actually the first fat your body burns when in a fasted state. Research from the New England Journal of Medicine shows that intermittent fasting specifically reduces visceral fat while preserving muscle mass, crucial for seniors who lose muscle as they age. A study on adults over 60 found that 16.8 fasting reduced visceral fat by 4 to 7% within 12 weeks without requiring calorie counting or extreme restriction. How to do it safely after 60. Start gradually. Begin with 12 hours fasting, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Then extend to 14, then 16 as your body adapts. Stay hydrated during fasting. Water, black coffee, and herbal tea are fine. Break your fast with protein and healthy fats to stabilize blood sugar. Eat nutrient-dense meals during your eating window. Don't waste those meals on junk. Important. If you have diabetes or take medications, talk to your doctor before starting. Fasting affects blood sugar and some medications need to be taken with food. Intermittent fasting is the metabolic reset button that specifically targets visceral fat faster than traditional dieting. 2. Strength training, not cardio. The second part of the fastest strategy is strength training, specifically resistance exercises that build muscle, not endless cardio. This surprises people. They think, I need to do cardio to burn fat. But research shows that strength training is superior for visceral fat loss, especially after 60. Why? Building muscle increases your resting metabolic rate. You burn more calories even while sitting. Muscle tissue is metabolically active and specifically helps regulate blood sugar and insulin, which control visceral fat storage. Strength training triggers hormonal changes that mobilize visceral fat for energy. A Harvard study following 10,500 men over 12 years found that those who did 20 minutes of strength training daily had significantly less visceral fat gain than those who did the same amount of cardio. After 60, you're losing muscle mass, sarcopenia, naturally, about 3 to 8% per decade. This muscle loss slows your metabolism and makes visceral fat accumulate faster. Strength training reverses this. What to do? Focus on compound movements that work multiple muscle groups. Bodyweight squats, wall push-ups, resistance band exercises, light dumbbell work, 5-15 lbs, chair exercises. Aim for 20-30 minutes 3 to 4 times per week. You don't need to lift heavy. Moderate resistance with proper form is enough. Progressive overload matters. Gradually increase reps or resistance over time. The fastest visceral fat loss happens when you combine intermittent fasting, which creates the calorie deficit and metabolic state for fat burning, with strength training, which builds muscle that burns visceral fat specifically. Eliminate sugar and refined carbs. The third part of the fastest strategy is eliminating or drastically reducing sugar and refined carbohydrates. Visceral fat is directly fueled by excess insulin, and insulin spikes are caused by sugar and refined carbs. When you eat white bread, pastries, sugary drinks, or processed snacks, your blood sugar spikes, insulin floods your system, and that insulin specifically stores fat as visceral fat around your organs. Research from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that high sugar intake is the strongest dietary predictor of visceral fat accumulation, even more than total calories or fat intake. After 60, your insulin sensitivity decreases. Your cells don't respond to insulin as well, so you produce more insulin to get the same effect. This creates a vicious cycle of insulin resistance and visceral fat storage. What to eliminate? Sugary beverages, soda, juice, sweet tea, energy drinks, refined grains, white bread, white rice, regular pasta, pastries, cookies, cakes, and desserts, processed snacks, crackers, chips, pretzels, hidden sugars in sauces, dressings, and healthy foods like granola. What to eat instead? Lean proteins, chicken, fish, eggs, beans, non-starchy vegetables, broccoli, spinach, peppers, cauliflower, healthy fats, avocado, nuts, olive oil, fatty fish, whole grains in moderation, quinoa, brown rice, oats. When you cut sugar and refined carbs, insulin levels drop, and your body shifts from storing visceral fat to burning it. Combined with fasting and strength training, this accelerates visceral fat loss dramatically. 4. Prioritize sleep, 7-8 hours. The fourth critical part is getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every night. Poor sleep is a hidden driver of visceral fat accumulation. When you're sleep deprived, two things happen. Ghrelin, hunger hormone, increases, making you crave high-calorie foods, and cortisol, stress hormone, stays elevated, which specifically promotes visceral fat storage. Research from Wake Forest University found that people who slept less than 5 hours per night gained 2.5 times more visceral fat over 5 years than those who slept 6 to 7 hours. After 60, sleep quality often decreases. You wake more frequently, sleep lighter, and get less deep sleep. This makes the problem worse. How to improve sleep for visceral fat loss? Maintain a consistent sleep schedule. Same bedtime and wake time daily. Create a dark, cool bedroom. 65-68 degree ice is optimal. Avoid screens 1 to 2 hours before bed. Limit caffeine after 2 p.m. and alcohol close to bedtime. Consider magnesium supplementation. Talk to your doctor. It improves sleep quality and insulin sensitivity. Better sleep reduces cortisol, improves insulin sensitivity, reduces cravings, and allows your body to burn visceral fat during sleep repair processes. You can do everything else right, but if you're not sleeping, visceral fat won't budge. 5. Manage chronic stress. The fifth and final part is managing chronic stress. Chronic stress keeps cortisol elevated, and elevated cortisol is one of the strongest triggers for visceral fat storage. Even if you're fasting, exercising, and eating well, chronic stress can sabotage your results. Research shows that people with high stress levels have significantly more visceral fat than those with lower stress, independent of diet and exercise. Stress management techniques that work. Daily meditation or deep breathing, even 5-10 minutes, reduces cortisol. Regular walking in nature, proven to lower stress hormones. Social connection. Isolation increases stress. Connection reduces it. Gratitude practice shifts brain chemistry away from stress. Professional help if needed. Therapy or counseling for chronic stress or anxiety. When you manage stress, cortisol drops and visceral fat becomes much easier to lose. The fastest way to remove visceral fat after 60 combines 5 strategies. Intermittent fasting, 16.8 method, to trigger fat burning. Strength training 3 to 4 times weekly to build muscle and boost metabolism. Eliminating sugar and refined carbs to lower insulin. Getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep to reduce cortisol and cravings. Managing chronic stress to keep cortisol low. This isn't a quick fix. It's a sustainable system designed for aging bodies. But people see results within 2 to 4 weeks. Belly shrinking, energy increasing, blood sugar improving, inflammation dropping. Visceral fat is dangerous, but it's also responsive. Do these 5 things consistently and you will lose it. If this gave you a clear action plan for removing dangerous visceral fat, Please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone over 60 who needs this. Which of these 5 strategies will you start with? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to Graceful Aging Guide for science-backed strategies that help seniors live longer, healthier lives. Your belly fat doesn't have to define your health. Take action today.